On to passage 2. Let's read the first few sentences. Okay, this is an experimentation about gas law and changing pressure, volume, and temperature. Now we're going to jump to the questions. For the first question on this passage, the where is experiment 2. The who is temperature of 325 kelvins. And the why is, well, we're either looking for a value of one volume or a range of volumes. So let's look at experiment 2, which gives us a table. And the temperature was 325 Kelvin. So, there's no 325. But 325 is between 318 and 328. So the volume would be between the corresponding volumes of those two temperatures. So it would be between 2.46 and 2.54, which would lead us to choice G. For question 8, we're asked to look at experiment 2, that's the where. And the who would be the temperature and the volume. The why is because we're asked about the relationship. So we want to find the trend that matches with one of the graphs that's given. So let's look at table 2. Now, if we move down the temperature column, we see that temperature is increasing. And what happens to volume? Well, if we go down the rows, we see that volume is going from 2.31 and it's increasing monotonically to 2.62. So as temperature increases, volume increases. Now let's look at the graphs that are given. And we see that that is choice B. Choice B is the choice where if temperature is increasing, volume is also increasing. So for question 9, we're told to look at experiment 1, the where. The who, we're looking at the pressure of gas as it increases. And the why is to look at how it affects volume. So experiment 1, pressure of gas. Okay, so for experiment 1, pressure is the first column. And if we go down the rows, pressure is increasing. Now let's look at volume. Volume is going from 5.2, 4.16, 2.97, 2.6. So volume is decreasing monotonically. So as pressure increases, volume decreases. And that would be choice F. Question 10 is an example of a question where the test makers expect you to draw on your knowledge from scientific experimentation design to answer the question. When you see questions like this, don't panic. Look at the answer choices and one of them would make the most sense. For example, here we're told that the number of moles were kept constant in experiment 1 and 2. And we're asked that the students did this to ensure what? Well, looking at the choices, choice C is the one that makes sense. It's saying, well, we kept the number of moles constant so that the volume won't be affected by the number of moles. Question 11 is a question where we can apply the 3 W's to. So we're asked to look at experiment 1, that's the where. And the who would be the pressure at 1.2 to 1.4. And the why is that we're looking at the volume corresponding to these two pressures. So let's look at experiment 1. Okay. 1.2 and 1.4, so it's 3.46 to 2.97. So back to the question, 3.46 to 2.97. Now the question is asking us what's the difference between them, what's the change, and an approximation. And 2.97 is about 3, 3.46 is about 3.5. So the increase was about 0.5 liters. Which would be choice G. Question 12 is a question about the design of experiment 1. Now, if you look at the answer choices, please don't panic by seeing the laws. It's okay if you don't remember what each law was about. We can still figure out the answer. So let's look at experiment 1 and see what was happening there. So here we see that pressure was changed. So pressure is changed and volume is changed. But temperature was kept constant. So now we look for the choice that corresponds to that. And we see here for question 12, it's choice B that tells us that we're looking to find the effect of pressure on volume. Question 13 is one of the harder questions on this practice test. It's in regard to experiment 3, but we need to draw conclusions from the other experiments in the study. So we're told that the number of moles, we want to increase it to 0.5, but that the volume needs to be kept less than 5.4 liters. So let's look at experiment 3 and see what's going on. So yeah, if this mole was increased to 0.5, the volume would be more than 5.4, which would break the flask. We're asked, how can we drop the volume? So let's look at the answer choices. One of them is saying increase the temperature, decrease the temperature, or decrease the pressure, or do none of them. So let's go back to the experiments and see. In experiment 2, if we increase the temperature, volume, we've already established volume will increase, which is not what we want. However, if we drop the temperature, volume would drop. So that would be the correct answer, which would be choice G. Now let's do a quick sanity check for choice H and make sure that that's not correct. So choice H is saying decrease the pressure. Let's look at experiment 1 and see what happens if we decrease the pressure. So if we decrease the pressure here, that means if we go from 1.6, for example, back to 0.8, volume is actually increasing. So that will definitely break the flask. So in fact, our answer is choice G.